Have you ever found someone outside taking pictures of your house? You were completely stunned, scared out of your mind. You thought someone was spying on you. You thought someone was going to try breaking into your house. You were going to call the cops. Maybe you called the cops. You were completely uneasy with the situation. But guess what? It's actually part of a process that you don't even know about. It's completely normal, completely legal. So let's talk about BPOs. In this video, we're going to talk about what a BPO is, why it's done. We're going to talk about how it affects you or doesn't affect you, and when you should and should not worry. So I myself know about this because I have been doing BPO since 2007. I, for the most part, drive by and take what we consider exterior drive-by inspections and then complete the report. Those are probably 80 to 85% of all of the reports I do. The other ones are going to be interiors, where I'm actually having to contact the homeowner to make an appointment to get inside and take pictures. Or on some occasions, it's the properties that the bank has already gotten possession of and they're vacant properties. So that's how this works from my end. But what's happening on the other side of like why it's being ordered, they don't tell me that. That's essentially none of my none of my business and not information that they're going to give me. But I do know that sometimes I have properties that I have done every 6 months. I have no idea why. Sometimes I guess that these people are behind on payments. Sometimes I just think that they're just valuing their portfolios because that is what's happening for the most part. So often they need to know what the value of their assets are. So they are having to do these pretty continuously. They're trying to figure out how much is actually maybe laid out from their perspective, if there's areas that are increasing or decreasing in values, and maybe they need to change their lending or how they're lending. Maybe they feel that they're going to sell off certain mortgages in certain areas. I have no idea. But I know that these are type of things that they're looking at when they're valuing these. So often when a new lender is going to maybe purchase some loans from a different lender, they're going to want to value as well because they want to know what it is that they're purchasing. So there's a lot of different things that happen here. Now, some other situations, and we'll start with the ones that are not as dire, are situations where they're actually what they call hard money lenders. So these are lenders that often lend to real estate investors, and they're looking to see what the current value is and then what the repaired value is. So sometimes those are still occupied homes that maybe somebody's purchasing. Sometimes they don't go in them at all. Sometimes they do. So those are situations with that. But these are all pretty benign, right? They're not actually affecting anybody. So then let's get into some of the other situations. It could be that somebody is refining. So if you're refinancing, there are times in some lenders that don't actually require anybody to come in at all. They drive by the house, they make sure the house looks fine, and then they go about their process, right? A few other times, there are actually not even valuations that are done with the inspections. They're just inspections that are done. Some of those are done from the ones that I do on disaster areas. So sometimes when they're under like FEMA or something like that, or just if there's been a disaster, say, hurricane or tornado, earthquakes, different storms, fires, whatever, the lenders will actually want to, have those inspected. So somebody will just drive by and take the photos. And so often those actually do come to people like me who are in real estate because obviously we look at homes all the time. So we kind of know what we're looking for damage purposes. There are companies that don't require somebody to be licensed, but they're still doing the same thing. So those are different things that are, we'll say, in a good situation. Then we have things like foreclosures. Obviously, if somebody is starting to become behind on their payments, they're going to start checking on it then. And because each state has a different foreclosure process, it's going to be a different timeline. So sometimes in like states that have short foreclosure timelines, you might not get as many pictures before the actual foreclosure. I'm in a state where it takes months before they actually get to foreclose. So sometimes they're done a few times beforehand and then they're done afterwards while there's a redemption period. So somebody who is financially behind, or even if they're, say, not going into foreclosure, but they're behind on their payments, and then they make a payment to stay just a couple payments behind, you will have a lot of people going out and taking pictures of that house because they're constantly knowing that at some point somebody's probably not going to be able to keep it just behind enough to avoid foreclosure. So they keep checking on those. There's also situations like short sales, which at the time of this video, we are not, for the most part in this country, really in a position where homes are losing value and becoming where they are valued at less than what's owed on the mortgage. But sure enough, we will come back to that at some point in time. So anytime somebody is trying to sell their house for more than what they owe on it, and they have to get the bank to take less, that short sale process is going to require at least one, if not multiple BPOs. There are also situations like deed in lieu. This is where somebody says, look, I can't make the payments anymore. Please just take the house back from me. So they avoid trying to sell it themselves. They avoid the foreclosure, but still the value has to be attained by the lender because sometimes they won't do it at all. If the lender, say, finds that there's foundation issues or something like that, they may just want you to get foreclosed on. And again, everything is from the bank's perspective. So I have no idea from house to house, or even lender to lender, what their policies are going to be or how they look at the different situations. So take this with a grain of salt. These are just very generalized situations, but these are different positions that people could be in for it to actually be done. So what should you do if you actually see somebody taking pictures of your house? Well, I really don't want you to do anything. If you see somebody who is leaning their camera out of their window and taking a picture down the street, they're probably not taking a picture of you or like your possessions, or they're not going to be somebody who's trying to steal from you, right? So because of the way the pictures are taken, you can pretty much kind of know like what they're doing it for. So if they are taking pictures of your address, your roof, the sides of the house, actually across the street from you too, because one of the requirements is a view. So if you're in a standard little neighborhood, more often your view is actually your neighbors across the street. So yes, when I'm taking pictures, I am startling more than just you. I'm startling everybody. But if you're seeing all of that, you can pretty much know that it's not somebody who's like spying on you or trying to break into your house or anything like that. But if you ever feel completely unsafe, by all means, call the police, get a license plate, call your mortgage company and see if they are, conducting this. I want you to know, though, that whatever main number you call is not going to know that information. That's a completely different department. So you're going to have to do some sleuthing and get somebody to actually get you to the right place because most of the time they're not going to have any clue about it actually being ordered. So you're going to have to do a little bit of work. But do that. By all means, if you feel uncomfortable, call. For the most part, though, there's nothing to worry about. It has nothing to do with you, unless you're behind on your payments or something like that. If that's the case, you can expect that at some point somebody is going to knock on your door because if you're falling behind, they're going to send somebody out to talk to you. Now, even though I say don't worry, there is one group of people that I would like to have a little bit of concern. So if you are renting and somebody's taking pictures, it could be very well that it is for the mortgage company and it's completely standard because, yeah, your landlord probably has a mortgage too, right? But because I see more and more people who are falling behind, that, like when I look in public records, they're not living in the house. Sometimes they're just people who own the property and are landlords. Sometimes they're large companies who own a lot of houses. So, quick story. I actually was taking a picture one day and it was on a dead end street. So I took my pictures and I went down and went to turn around. And when I did that, the woman's out on her porch. She's been renting the house. She's been paying on time. She's been taking care of the house, but her landlord was behind on payments. She had no clue. She was making her payments. She was doing her part of it. Um, but she didn't know what to do. And for me to give her anything beyond like, these are the facts that they're behind, and there's a foreclosure listed in public records, anything else would have been essentially me giving her legal advice. And I really just said, contact somebody and contact the lawyer, contact your landlord, double check, what you can do, because I'm not qualified for that. But the thing was that actual company owned probably close to 100 properties in that city. And I did probably 40 to 50 of those properties as reports that were ordered from their lender. And almost all of them that they owned in that city were actually in foreclosure. They were all rented to people, they were all occupied. So somebody's there, and more than likely, those people were paying their rent. So, not to say that just because somebody's taking the pictures and you're renting, that your landlord's in foreclosure, but because you need to protect yourself, um, there's a couple things to do. And again, not legal advice. Go get proper advice, especially because every state is completely different. But first off, call your landlord and tell them, people are taking pictures. I need to know that you're actually making your mortgage payment. I mean, worst case, ask for proof. They're not going to like you for that. They're probably not going to actually give you proof, but maybe depends on, what they're like. But protect yourself and don't worry about your landlord. So, one of the biggest things that I can say for tenants is, if you suspect that the landlord is behind, if you're in a contract, even if they fall into foreclosure and the bank takes back over, you have that contract for you to rent that house for a set amount of time. If you're month to month, that means that they can kick you out at any point in time, right? So, try to protect yourself and look at what your options are. This really isn't a full video about that, but I do want to say that because if people are taking pictures, it is more of a possibility. If it's a homeowner, unless you're behind on payments, you're not getting kicked to your house because they're taking photos and doing a value. Tenants are a totally different thing. So if you're renting, just try to protect yourself a little bit more. To recap here, for the most part, almost everybody, if they're taking pictures, and they're getting that street view, don't worry about it. It's completely an essential part of the real estate process, completely normal, has been around for decades upon decades, and is not going anywhere. So, if it's happened once, it's probably happened before, and it will probably happen again. So, don't worry about it too much. Obviously, if it's a weird situation, you call the police and you do what you have to do. Don't automatically assume that just because I'm saying, oh, if somebody's taking pictures, it's okay, it's the bank. It might not be, right? We all know, trust your gut and do what you have to and what's right. So, hopefully this helps. Granted, this is not helping you make money or save money, but obviously, for how many people have somebody taking pictures and are, completely freaked out about it, just don't worry. And to next time, to your financial success, and watch the next video.